It's a beautiful morning. I think I'll go outside.
Hey there, welcome to my weekly messages. I'm Jalela Starr. Today the topic is cleaning for control. How many times, for many of you have been labeled clean freaks, have felt shame or guilt over your cleaning? I know that I have, because I've been labeled a clean freak many times. And it hurts. It hurts when people do that because they make you feel like you're bad or you're wrong for doing that. Well, I have news for you today. I had a conversation today that helped me release that shame and guilt that I've carried for years over the way that I can get into these major cleaning spells. People call it obsessive. I guess to a certain degree, sometimes it is. The reason why we really do it. And maybe by seeing it in a different light, like I said, we can overcome or we can let go of a lot of the shame that we've carried, because part of ascension is emotional clearing. We got to clear these things out, but we can't clear them out if we have a belief that they're justified. We hang on to them. So this is a way to lighten your load. Okay, so the way that you could call it an epiphany came about was through a conversation that I had with my daughter, Danielle, this morning. Now, for those of you who've been following my weekly messages, you know that she lost her dad recently, about 7 weeks ago. And so she's been going through the grief, mourning his loss. So we've fallen into this pattern of what I call the morning grief call. Each morning she will call me and we will talk somewhere between 10 minutes, sometimes up to an hour. The duration depends on whatever it takes for her to feel like she is ready to face the day. And she's been very strong, but when the pain comes up, it's debilitating at times. So anyway, this morning was very interesting. Now okay, but let me a little bit more background. So we've had this issue between us from the time she was little about our standards of cleanliness. Danielle is like her father, she's okay with messy. She can be okay with being in a bedroom where you can't even see the floor because there's clothes and trash and whatever on it. And, they're cool with that. To some degree, I envy their ability to live in that kind of environment where, the dust is like a quarter of an inch thick and grime is just, not a big deal. Okay. I'm not that way. I was raised by parents who were very, very clean people. So that's kind of my standard. So you can imagine the conflict between us. Anyway, so this morning she said, well, it's not going to be a good day. And I'm like, okay, so are you telling me it's not going to be a good day emotionally or what? She goes, yeah, emotionally. So that tells me that she's got another layer of grief coming up. And I said, so what do you think you're going to do? She goes, I'm going to clean. Clean? Okay. Whoa. She doesn't clean. All right. I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. I said, so why do you clean? Because I'm like, now, very curious. She goes, well, Mom, she goes, when I clean, I feel a sense of relief from the pain. And when I'm done, I feel a sense of accomplishment. Like I've managed to get something tackled. And I go, yeah. I said, so now you're learning the benefits of cleaning. She goes, yeah. I said, so now you understand why I've done it all these years. She goes, light bulb moment. Yeah. And then there's a pause. And then she goes, well, wait a minute. You weren't grieving all those years. Why did you clean when you weren't grieving? And that made me pause. And I thought about it. And I thought, oh, why did I do that? So my first response, which has been my typical response, is, well, it's because my parents were that way. But then I realized, wait a minute, there's something deeper than that. So I went back in and I looked at that and I go, wait a minute, why did they clean? And here's the epiphany. My mom and my dad both dealt with tremendous anxiety and tremendous stress their entire marriages, their entire marriage. And it was behaviors that they came into that marriage with. My dad had tremendous anxiety, um, and he had some degree of he was somewhat, they would classify him as bipolar today, partially because he had had an accident at 8 years old where he hit his frontal cortex, frontal lobe, and that area is where it controls anger. And so he was unable to, when he would get scared, he couldn't manage it. It would just immediately be a tantrum, just immediate like a explosion. So all of us grew up walking on eggshells. And his anxiety was pretty high, but my mother managed to hide all that from us. But my mother, because she was managing my dad's anxiety, she was constantly under stress. So my mother's and my father's way of dealing with their stress is that they would clean. I mean, we had probably the cleanest house in the neighborhood. And there were 6 of us kids and a dog. So yeah, we were really clean. And I used to ridicule my mom. I used to call her the white glove queen. And my dad, I just thought he was crazy because they wanted everything clean. But now all of a sudden I get it. That's how they managed their fear. That's how they channeled the energy of their anxiety. And, and then I thought, wait a minute, well, there could have been more destructive ways that they did it. They could have turned to alcohol. They could have turned to drugs. They could have done a lot of other things, gambling, whatever, to deal with that pain. But they turned to cleaning. So it's like the lesser of all the evils, and it had the benefit of when you're done, you have a clean house. You feel a sense of, a positive, a sense of accomplishment. So I shared all that with her, and I go, that's why they cleaned. And I said, and that's why I cleaned. And I said, let me take this a step further so you understand this. When you were 15 months old, your father and I divorced. So here I am, out on my own, now with a baby. And I got to tell you, I was scared. I was scared all the time. Of course, that fear motivated me to work harder than I'd ever worked, and I made more money than I'd ever made. That particular year I moved down. But it was because I was terrified. I was terrified of failing. And so when the fear would become too much, I would clean. That's how I would manage to de-stress. I would be able to chill back out again. She goes, oh, that's why you did it. Yeah. So all in like a split second, she was able to release all her years of resentment towards me for cleaning and understand the fear that motivated me, because now she feels that fear, because now she's got the burden of all these bills left by her dad because his everything went into probate. She's now been given this house, but this house needs repairs. I mean, all these things that didn't get done, she's now saddled with all that, with his business, handling his business, her business, because she's a hairdresser, all this on her shoulders. And she wakes up many days feeling overwhelmed. And so instead of turning to drinking or alcohol, she has channeled it into cleaning. So she now understands why I did it. And I understood what my parents did it. So I was really able to release all those years of resentment toward my mom and my dad for being that way, because now I understand. So in a split second, 3 generations of people had healing, because we could finally understand, and we could let go of our belief around cleaning being bad. Now, there's one last point. Sometimes when it becomes obsessive, it hurts other people, only because when you're obsessive, you're no longer emotionally available to the other people around you. And what used to make me angry about my mother's cleaning was because sometimes she'd be cleaning and she wouldn't stop when I really needed her attention. And I believe that's what my daughter was feeling toward me. There were times that instead of spending time with her, I was cleaning. But now at least she understands why. I was trying to deal with pain and fear, and that was the priority, so that I could go back and be her parent again. So anyway, hopefully this has helped you if you have been labeled a clean freak at different times, to maybe release yourself and your parents if one of them was that way as well. Okay, so that's it for today, and I will chat with you next week. Bye-bye.
It's your chance to